Hello, and welcome to another Contemplative Living. Today we're going to talk about connecting to ancestors of the past. Maybe not necessarily our grandma or grandpa who've passed on, but to ancestors. Those deceased, those wise wisdom seekers of the past, and how those generations and those past peoples have really affected our lives and how they're a part of us. So there was a Dakota proverb that says, "We will be known forever by the tracks we leave." I believe that those tracks are a part of us. And so let's get to it.
Welcome. Now creating a life of peace. This is Contemplative Living with David Bennett. Contemplations and reflections to help with spiritual living. This podcast is made possible by dharmatalks.com.
All right, so we're talking about connecting to ancestors of the past. Now, it's kind of funny. When I died and I went into the light, I connected to a soul family, to my soul family. But there was also a connection to all the souls that ever were and all the souls that ever will be. And it was a powerful experience for me. It showed that we are interconnected with all the beings that ever were. And so with that in mind, knowing ourselves is about discovering we are in a great flowing river. A river that's connected to the ancestors of the past. And actually we should say, and to the people of the future, I suppose. But the thing is that we're a part of this flow, and that we are interconnected and an integral part of this flow, this flowing river of consciousness, this expansiveness that we have the ability to tap into. When we go into our practice, then we can feel this expansiveness. So we are shaped by our ancestors and by the environments in which they lived. They drew pictures on the caves, letting us know that they were there. They tilled the land. They cultivated crops. They lived their lives. And yes, they had turbulent times as well. But all of that, when we look at it and we look back and gain and look for the glimmers of wisdom, then we benefit. We benefit from our ancestors. And respecting our ancestors brings us to the flow of the past into the present. So what we're trying to do is, by connecting to what our ancestors were about, who they were, how they went about their business, that all influences us today because of that interconnection that we have with them. They influence our lives. They influence our lives on a daily basis. But being unfocused expresses itself as a divided self, a self that has forgotten and abandoned the infinity of its being. We are an infinite being. And many times we forget that. I mean, the day-to-day circumstances happen all the time, and we forget. we forget that we are an infinite being and that we are a part of this expansive flow of consciousness. We forget, and when we forget, we abandon our own self. Can you imagine that? I mean, we just abandon our own self because we don't stay in that higher level of consciousness. We don't even try a lot of the times. A lot of the times we're so swept up in the circumstances and everything that's going on in the world around us that we don't pay attention, or we don't rise above the circumstances with our own thoughts, with our own consciousness, with our own sense of being. When we can do that, then we reconnect to the flow. We reconnect to our higher consciousness. We connect to the ancestors, and we become a better person as a result of that. And we think our ancestors are behind us, but they also go before us. They pave the way for us. They have, and it's kind of interesting. I wrote a book about contemplations, and in it I said, there's nothing in this book that hasn't already been said or thought of or contemplated. Our ancestors were just like you and I. They were trying to make the best of this life. And so they have thought about a lot of the things that we are thinking about how to raise our children, how to interact in this world. Now, they may not have had the modern type of world that we have, although some people who are really into the Atlantean stories and theories, they may argue that was a more modern culture than what we even have today. But the fact is that those pasts, those lives, do affect us. Now, it was interesting when I put one of these memes up this week. Someone forwarded me an article from a spiritual collective that was looking at ancestors, and they were looking at our most recent ancestors, like our parents that have passed, or our grandparents that have passed, and how they could possibly negatively affect us because they may have instilled some traits that were less desirable. And so maybe it caused trouble with marriage, or trouble with finances, or trouble with... But you know what? If we go beyond that, this is where, if we rise above, if we connect to our higher consciousness, then we rise above those older circumstances, those older patterns that we don't have to adopt. And we can adopt a new, healthy, more beneficial, and more empowering patterns to move forward. So I lost my train. See, I remembered that reply that I got from one of these memes. But it's interesting, so yes, our ancestors can affect us negatively and positively. But what do we want to focus on? That's the key here, right? What do we want to focus on? Do we want to focus on negativity? Do we want to dwell in that negativity? Or do we want to move forward with empowerment, with positivity, and look for those little gems of wisdom that can empower us and make us and help us in our interactions on a daily basis? One of our tasks is discovering how our ancestors enrich our lives. Not how they pull us down, but how they enrich our lives. This is what we really, really should be focusing on. But many times, because we get so much negativity thrown at us a lot of times. It's hard to see past the mud and the mire. And so we have to kind of pick ourselves up, clean ourselves off, and then feel that cleansing energy and use that to discover how our ancestors enrich us and bring us to a better place. Because our world has been inhabited for tens of thousands of years. Paleolithic people worshipped in caves. We've seen the cave drawings. Neolithic peoples farmed their lands. They cultivated, they brought new enriching foods into our diets. And today, cities, woodlands, and fields cover this old ground. But the energy that they put into the land in which we inhabit today is still present. And so feel the ancestors making themselves known. They inhabited this land. They inhabited this world. And they left behind their imprints. And when we go out into nature, when we go out and take a walk, we can feel their influence just because they left behind their energy for us, just as we're doing the same for our future generations. So what do you want to leave your future generations? Do you want to leave that negativity? No, I want to leave behind something that is more empowering, more positive. I want to plant seeds in my environment today, energetic seeds that can benefit my future generations. And I hope you find a way to do that within yourself. Take a walk, feel the nature, look upon the fields and the hills that surround your environment, and feel the ancestors that still reside there. One thing I noticed when I was in the light was that we are multidimensional, and that our energy is not just here, but it's in the light, it's here, and time didn't exist. Time was all at once. So the ancestors have a lot of power and are available. And they are all around us. Thank you for your comments. And so I hope you take the time this week to feel their energy, to go out and to allow that to imbue you with a greater sense of being. Yes. And J. Ross says, yes, and sometimes you can feel their opinions, and that is so true. So we want to be present. I hope you take the time to be present in your environment, and that you create and put back some positive intentions. All right? Have a blessed week. Namaste.
Thank you for listening today to Contemplative Living with David Bennett. Please be sure to subscribe, listen, and share with your friends wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and the Podbean app. You can find the links to these on David's website, dharmatalks.com, on the Contemplative Living page. Have a blessed week.